In Warhammer 40,000 10th edition, few units have risen in competitive value as sharply as the Deathwing Knights. These elite warriors of the Dark Angels are not only a thematic centerpiece of the army, they're also a tactical powerhouse, dominating tables across tournaments and earning a reputation as a near auto-include in top-tier lists. But are they truly essential in every Dark Angels army? How do they perform on the battlefield? And are they really worth their points? In this analysis, we'll explore whether Deathwing Knights are an auto-include in competitive Dark Angels armies. We'll assess their tournament performance, battlefield roles, efficiency, synergies, and long-term value in the meta. Auto-include or optional pick. The consensus across top tournament players and analysts is clear. Deathwing Knights are an auto-include in modern Dark Angels lists. Since receiving buffs in recent balanced data slates, including better anti-monster vehicle weaponry and improved durability, Deathwing Knights have become the backbone of nearly every competitive list. Dark Angels players frequently field 2 or even 3 full units, and it's not uncommon to see competitive rosters centered almost entirely around these elite bricks. Goonhammer noted that you need some Deathwing Knights to build a serious Dark Angels force. They have rapidly transitioned from a thematic favorite to a strategic staple. This change largely stems from a combination of factors: updates to their datasheet, the rise of durable infantry in the meta, and their exceptional synergy with the Gladius Task Force detachment. As melee becomes more viable in the game, Deathwing Knights offer a near unbeatable combination of damage output, survivability, and board control. Competitive performance and tournament results. In recent tournaments, Deathwing Knights have proven themselves time and time again. Innes Wilson's victory at the Northeast Open with a triple Knight list showcased just how powerful they can be when used well. He used the Knights to dominate the center of the board, absorbing massive punishment while dishing out lethal melee damage. The event's commentary emphasized how difficult it is for most armies to deal with 3 units of Deathwing Knights. Their presence forces opponents to either avoid them, ceding the board, or attempt to kill them, often failing and losing valuable units in return. Dark Angels lists featuring these Knights have consistently performed well at large events like the London GT, where a Gladius-based Dark Angels army with 15 Deathwing Knights went undefeated in the early rounds. As more players adopt this approach, the win rate of Dark Angels as a faction has steadily improved, making them one of the strongest Space Marine options in the current meta. While no unit is invincible, Deathwing Knights are a huge part of why Dark Angels lists are climbing in win rates and making top cuts. Their ability to control the board, threaten high-value enemy units, and survive multiple turns of focused fire gives Dark Angels players a reliable and repeatable path to victory. Battlefield role, objective holder, or elite killer. Deathwing Knights bring something that few other units in the game can match: true dual role functionality. Objective control. On the defensive side, they are nearly unkillable. With toughness 5, 4 wounds per model, a 2+ save, a 4++ invulnerable save, and damage reduction, these units shrug off most incoming damage. They also benefit from stratagems like Armor of Contempt, which further reduce AP by 1, making them even more durable. When placed on objectives, Deathwing Knights can hold the line against virtually anything. Opponents often need to commit an excessive amount of firepower to even make a dent, and if they fail, the Knights retaliate with brutal force. Melee threat. But they aren't just walls of flesh and ceramite. Armed with maces of absolution, they deal 2 damage per hit, now with anti-monster 4+, and anti-vehicle 4+ built in. That allows them to threaten high-toughness targets and wipe out elite infantry and vehicles alike. With access to Oath of Moment, Dark Angels players can select a high-priority enemy unit each turn and re-roll all hits. When this rule is applied to Deathwing Knights, they become one of the most lethal melee units in the game. This makes them perfect for mid-board dominance. They hold objectives while posing an existential threat to anything that gets too close. Their psychological impact on opponents is not to be underestimated. Points efficiency. At currently 250 points for 5 models, Deathwing Knights are more expensive than regular Terminators, but you get a significant return on investment. That extra cost grants you better melee weapons, damage reduction, additional wounds, and the inner circle keyword for synergy. In practice, a squad of knights often requires double or even triple their points in enemy firepower to remove. They trade up consistently, whether that's removing a 300-point elite unit or tying up and eventually dismantling a larger threat over several turns. They also occupy a sweet spot in list building. Even when taking 2 or 3 squads, players still have enough room for support characters, fast units or anti-tank shooting, creating a well-rounded army around a powerful core. In short, they're more than worth their points, and any slight adjustments in future data slates would likely still leave them in the efficient category. Synergies. Characters, stratagems, and detachments. Deathwing Knights aren't just strong on their own. Their power multiplies when supported by the right characters and detachment rules. Characters. Belial is a popular choice, being able to give precision to his unit. Being able to target characters with such a damage-heavy unit can be game-changing early on. Azrael doesn't join Knights directly, but supports the army by providing extra CP and a 4++ invulnera for other units. Chaplain in Terminator armor can provide litanies like +1 to wound, making Knights even deadlier. Useful stratagems. Armor of Contempt reduces incoming AP by 1. This makes already tanky units absurdly hard to remove. Martial Mastery. When using the Inner Circle detachment, you get retools of 1s or pre-roll to wound when in range of a vowed objective. Duty unto Death lets them fight on death, guaranteeing damage even when killed. Detachments. While Dark Angels have their own detachments, most competitive players are using the Gladius Task Force for its rotating combat doctrines and stratagems. Assault Doctrine gives advance and charge, which is vital for slow-moving Terminator units. Devastator Doctrine helps with early game positioning and ranged fire support. These doctrines allow Deathwing Knights to be both more mobile and more lethal, giving them a strategic edge. Having said this, I am personally a fan of Inner Circle Task Force. I think having these elite units with +1 to wound and the stratagems that link with it are really fun, and it feels like a very thematic detachment. Depends how you want to look at it. Deployment and delivery options. Mobility is often the biggest weakness of Terminator-style units, but Dark Angels have answers. Land Raider Redeemers can transport Knights, giving them protection, and delivering them to the mid-board quickly. Deep Strike allows for flexible deployment, especially with stratagems like Rapid Ingress. Teleport homers and scout units help them get into the best positions safely. Having both a mobile delivery system and flexible deployment tools gives players options for handling a variety of matchups. Community and meta commentary. Top players and analysts agree, Deathwing Knights are defining the Dark Angels in 10th edition. Goonhammer calls them one of the best units in the game. Warhammer community emphasizes their durability and newfound offensive punch. Bell of Lost Souls highlighted how the Knights have brought Dark Angels back into the top tier of competitive play. Players at major events are designing entire lists around them, using them as anchors in team events, and scoring dominant wins in solo events. They are seen as the model for how to build a durable, objective-focused army in 10th edition. The only real criticism is that some matchups like Imperial Knights or Mass Mortal Wound lists can be difficult. But in most scenarios, Deathwing Knights hold their own, and then some. Can you build a list without them? While it's possible to build Dark Angels lists around Ravenwing or the Lionel Johnson, it's rare to find competitive success without at least one unit of Deathwing Knights. Omitting them puts you at a disadvantage in most matchups. They simply offer too much value, as objective holders, melee threats, and damage sponges. In fact, many players consider them not just good, but essential. They are the unit around which the rest of the list functions. Final verdict: Deathwing Knights are a defining unit in 10th edition Dark Angels lists. Their combination of survivability, damage output, and strategic flexibility makes them one of the most effective tools in any Marine player's arsenal. They excel at both holding ground and eliminating threats, and they do so with remarkable efficiency. With the right support, they become a near unstoppable force on the battlefield. If you're building a competitive Dark Angels army, it's no longer a question of if you should include Deathwing Knights. it's how many. If you're looking to get more insider knowledge from the Adeptus Tactica, then consider subscribing to the chapter. Good day, and may the Emperor protect.